Okay, in the last video we talked about using an electric signal for turning accessories on our train, and I have the mountain set up and my table's repainted and going on with that. I'm not sure what I'm exactly going to do. We'll go into that further down the road in the video series. So what I got now is pretty much the same as before. I have one train on that track. I have the inner train sitting in there. We're not going to be using that again either. I have the same wiring as before. I have a main on-off switch. I have a three-way switch to control which train I want to run. But in this circuit, I added an extra transformer, which I have powered up. And you can adjust this transformer to whatever power you want as we get along. But I'm using a contactor switch this time. So basically what I have is this. I have our power like before. That comes in, goes to the train, to neutral goes to the train. And this time both ties for the neutral are tied together. They're wired in, so we're not modifying our track in any way. And those are going out to the negative side of the track. Here I put this brown tie in that's tying these together for reference to the bottom of the track. And for purple, I'm basically making our pressure switch, pressure contactor, which is here. And obviously when the train runs over it, it makes that switch and it powers our accessory on and off. The benefit of this style is this switch has nothing to do electronically with this track. It's electrically isolated from anything going on with our main transformer. And that's why I drew it up this way. We could put any power we want on this inside or on this positive side track. We can put 12 volts DC on it. We could put, as I'll see, we could put 3 volts from battery, 9 volts from a battery to turn on accessory that's not Lionel, maybe like a little snow glove scene or something like that. We just pick up at wherever along our path, we just find something. But I did put in a load, another symbol for a light, but we can turn on anything. And that would be the negative side of our, if we were running a DC circuit, would be the minus, and the other would be the positive. So we're completely isolated that way, which is a plus. Now I would not recommend putting 120 volts across this. I'd stay definitely low voltage. There's ways to get around and run a higher voltage, which we'll talk about down the road. And that's using another device we'll talk about is the relay. And we'll get into a whole thing on how to use a relay. Maybe that'll be oversimplified for some people, but I'm basing this off the basic beginner of doing this stuff. I'd really appreciate any comments that are made about this series, positive, negative, comments. Maybe I'm doing this wrong. Maybe there's a better way to do it. Maybe this is boring. I don't know. Am I too simple with this? Am I, too advanced? Whatever you need to do. From the last video, I have the signal track with the LED. I went ahead and left that in there. It don't matter if it comes on or not. The same one, the yellow one's on over there by the little house. So I'm going to go ahead and ramp this up. I'm going to bring my train around like I did before. And we can see the weight of the train will come in, make this contactor, and obviously our crossing guard comes on. Now we notice that one of the negatives of this contactor style circuit is the fact that now we have a raised surface here. And if we watch our train come across it, we're going to notice our train kind of walk around, our track move around up and down a little bit. So that's a negative side of it. But the positive of this style circuit is that if we stop our train, especially using an outside source as a second transformer, we can still stop our train on that spot, depowerizing the rail itself, and our accessory will stay on even if we turn this power that transformer down, the train ain't moving. As long as it's on that pressure switch, that accessory will stay on. That's up to you how long you want to keep that accessory on. Some of these older ones, I don't know if they're meant to be on constantly, if it'll overheat them or burn them up. That's up to you to decide what's wrong, and you can research, are those meant to be on permanently, or they have a duty cycle, they can only be on so long. So that is a positive of running a pressure switch. If we do want to control a larger voltage, we can use the relay with that. With the signal track, we can use a relay as well to do that. So that's where I'm at with the pressure switches, the advantages, the disadvantages of them. And we'll go further on using the relays. The other thing, I guess, with the transformer separate power supply, we can control how hard or how light we want our accessories to come on. If we want it to come on hard, we can turn our transformer higher and get a lot harder signal. If we turn our secondary transformer or power supply down, we'll get, well, in that case we went down too far, so we're going to get nothing. So we can control the brightness of a light if we're triggering that, or again, how hard we want that crossing guard to come on. We might not want this slam on full power. So that's where we're at with that. So we have a lot more control over that. So that's the benefit of running a pressure switch. I know I'm kind of rambling on. And that's how to wire one up, is to go through the separate power supply into our accessory, come back out of our accessory. We're running the red wire to one side of the switch. The black wire I'm using back to the other side of the power supply. I know my wiring is very brutal, but I'm just doing this for setup. It will be at one point wired in nicely once I figure out what my final track layout's going to be, which honestly will never be final, because as soon as I build a circuit, I'm going to run it for 6 months or whatever, and then I will want to change it. So I want to give a example of using an outside voltage source completely separate from the AC or a transformer. So I got just a flashlight set up, and I'll show you how I did that. But anytime, again, the train comes over, this pressure switch is made, that light's going to come on. So we can control anything completely isolated to the track. And how I did that, which maybe not the correct way, is obviously I turned our light to the on position. I used a couple terminals, and they're just metal contact terminals, and I put a piece of electrical tape between the two to neutralize them. Then I simply slid the two contacts down inside there. It's hard to do this with one hand. And since the batteries are spring loaded, it holds the contact in place. So you can do that simple to control, again, an outside source. So just an idea if you're building something and find something you want to trigger that's not related to Lionel or anything like that. Again, I highly recommend, I'm telling you, just don't do it, is to run high voltage circuit across here. Don't run 120 volts across this. It's super easy to do with a relay, and we'll talk about those next and how they work. So thank you. Leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe if you want. I have more stuff coming up. Appreciate you watching. Thank you very much.